It was Christmas Eve in Chicago, and the whole city looked like it had been dipped in silver. Snow came down thick, covering the sidewalks, muting the usual roar of traffic and turning even the ugliest corners into something that felt almost magical. People rushed home with bags of gifts, carolers' voices drifted through the air, and the smell of roasted chestnuts clung to the breeze. To most, it was a night for warmth, for laughter, for family. But not for Victor Hale. Victor sat in the back of his black Lincoln, staring out at the world like a man on the outside looking in. He was 60 years old, a billionaire developer known for building half the skyscrapers along the riverfront. The papers called him ruthless, brilliant, unstoppable. What they never wrote about was the silence he returned home to every night, the empty mansion he'd once filled with light. His wife had died from a sudden illness, his only daughter lost in a car accident a few winters later. Since then, his empire grew, but he shrank. The man who once dreamed of building homes people would love to live in, now lived like a ghost. That night he told his driver to take the long way home. Maybe he wanted to punish himself with more silence. Maybe he just wanted to feel the city alive around him. That's when he noticed a small figure on the corner of State Street. A boy no older than 9, bundled in nothing but a thin hoodie and torn sneakers, knocking on doors of shops already closed for the night. Each time the boy asked for food, the answer came sharp. "We're closed, kid. Move along, or worse, a slammed door." Victor leaned forward, watching through the window. He knew he should just look away. But then the boy stumbled, collapsing right there on the sidewalk, clutching something in his hands. Victor squinted, and under the streetlight he saw it. It wasn't food or money. It was a faded photograph of a woman smiling, holding the boy when he was younger. The edges were bent, the ink almost gone, but the way the child hugged it told Victor everything. That wasn't just a picture. That was all he had left. Victor's chest tightened. He saw himself reflected in that boy's pain, the same emptiness, the same desperate clinging to memories that hurt to hold, but were worse to let go. Without thinking, he opened the door, the winter wind slicing into the warmth of the car. He stepped onto the icy street. "Hey, Victor," said his voice rougher than he meant. "You hurt." The boy scrambled back, clutching the photo tighter. "I'm fine," he whispered, though his lips were blue, his eyes glossy with tears. Victor crouched, lowering his imposing frame. For the first time in years, someone looked at him without envy, without calculation, just pure fear and distrust. He saw it and hated it. Slowly, he slipped off his cashmere coat and draped it over the boy's shoulders. "No kid should freeze on Christmas Eve," he muttered. "What's your name?" The boy hesitated, then said softly, "Luis." "Well, Luis," Victor said, extending a hand. "You want to get out of this cold. I know a place that'll take you in." Luis's small hand shook as he stared at Victor's outstretched palm. For a long second, nothing happened. Then the boy tucked the photo close to his chest, and with the kind of bravery only desperation can bring, reached out. His fingers slipped into Victor's, and that simple connection, flesh to flesh, broke through the billionaire's armor. The Lincoln glided through snowy streets until it stopped in front of a brick building glowing with warm yellow light, Haven House. It was a shelter Victor had secretly funded for years but never once visited. A wooden sign over the door read, "Where every child matters." Victor led Luis up the steps, his hand steadying the boy as if it had been his job all along. Inside, children's laughter mixed with the smell of hot chocolate. A nun with silver hair and eyes that carried both authority and kindness appeared. "Mr. Hale," she said, surprised. "This weather's no place for—" She stopped when she saw Luis half hidden behind him. One glance was all she needed. "Of course," she whispered. "Come in, sweetheart." Luis got a bed dry clothes, a bowl of soup. But what he didn't let go of, not once, was that picture. Even while eating, his hand brushed against it like a lifeline. Victor stood in the corner, trying not to care too much, trying not to feel something breaking open inside. He told himself he was just helping a kid, nothing more. But when Luis glanced up from his soup and smiled, weak, cautious, grateful, Victor felt something stir he thought had died with his daughter. Days turned into weeks. Victor kept visiting at first under the excuse of checking the shelter's finances. But soon, no one bought the excuse. Not the nun, not the kids, not even Victor himself. He started helping with homework, bringing food, even fixing broken toys with hands that had once signed billion-dollar deals. And Luis clung to him in a way that was both heartbreaking and healing. The moment that changed everything came one snowy afternoon. The kids were decorating a tree in the courtyard. Laughter echoed, ornaments clinked. Luis hung back, watching, still half-convinced joy wasn't meant for him. Then one of the younger kids, a girl no older than 6, darted toward the frozen pond. She laughed. "Look, I can walk on water," and before anyone could stop her, she ran onto the thin ice. The cracks split the air. She plunged into the water, her scream muffled by shock. Chaos erupted, kids shouting, the nuns screaming for help. Victor froze, terror pinning him to the spot. He remembered losing his daughter, the helplessness, the scream he never forgot. But Luis moved. "Hold this," he shouted, grabbing a jump rope from the playground and tying it around his waist. He tossed the end to a boy his age. "Don't let go no matter what." Then he crawled onto the ice inch by inch, the way only someone who's seen too much danger would know. Victor's throat tightened. "Luis, stop. It's not safe." Luis didn't look back. "She's family now," he yelled. The ice groaned under his small frame, but he kept going. He reached the girl, grabbed her arm, and together with the kids pulling from shore, they hauled her out. When he finally staggered back onto solid ground, soaked and shivering, the children cheered. The nun wrapped the girl in blankets, whispering thanks through tears. Victor rushed forward, hands gripping Luis's shoulders. "You could have died," he said, voice trembling. Luis met his eyes, steady and strong. "She needed me," he whispered. In that moment, Victor didn't see a homeless boy. He saw a son. Weeks later, Victor asked the question he'd been wrestling with. "Luis, how would you feel about making this permanent, coming to live with me? As my boy?" Luis blinked, the weight of the words sinking in. "You mean adoption?" Victor's voice cracked. "If you want it. If you think you could be happy with an old man who's still learning how to be a father again." Luis's eyes darted around the shelter, to the kids who'd become his friends, to the nun who'd given him safety. Finally, he looked back at Victor. "Can I still visit here? Still help out?" Victor smiled. "As often as you like. This place will always be yours too." Luis's answer came firm, steady. "Yes, I want to be your son." The embrace that followed wasn't just father and son. It was two broken souls, finding home in each other. 15 years later, snow once again blanketed Chicago. Luis Hale, now 24, a college graduate with a degree in social work, stood in the halls of Haven House, the very place that had saved him. Victor had passed away 2 years earlier, but not before witnessing every milestone: birthdays, graduations, victories, big and small. Together, they had built a legacy, the Hale Foundation now funding shelters across the city. That night, after the Christmas pageant, Luis heard soft crying outside. He followed the sound to the alley where a little girl huddled, clutching a bent Christmas card. Her clothes were ragged, her face streaked with tears. Luis froze. Memories hit like a tidal wave: the cold pavement, the photograph of his mother the night everything changed. He crouched down, offering the same gentle smile Victor once gave him. "Hey there, I'm Luis. What's your name, Sophia?" she whispered, barely audible. "Are you hungry?" Sophia called. She nodded. Without hesitation, he took off his coat and wrapped it around her. Then he held out his hand. "Want to come inside? It's warm in there. And I promise, you'll never have to face Christmas alone again." Sophia hesitated, just like he once had. Then her small hand slid into his. As they walked toward the glowing lights of Haven House, Luis looked up at the sky, snowflakes catching in his hair, and whispered to himself, "Thank you, Dad." The story always circles back. Pain can turn into hope, strangers into family, broken hearts into new beginnings. So tell me, what do you think? Was Victor right to step into that alley that night? Did we choose our families? Or are we bound by the ones we're born into? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story touched you, Hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a little faith and second chances tonight.